Hi and welcome to the Mum Boss Method podcast. Happy Monday. Happy half term is over. I hope that you survived. At the time of recording this, I'm halfway through half term. It's Wednesday in the week of half term. I have survived so far. I feel, if you've been listening to my social media, I feel like I cheated for the first couple of days. Last night, Karma came and bit me on the bum, quite frankly, because he was giggling until far too late for a 12-year-old whilst talking to his friends last night, and I had to tell him off a couple of times. So I wasn't very happy about that, but what can you do? Not a lot. I just need to take a chew off the dog because he's making a lot of noise. Sorry, Henry, you can have that back in a minute. He's looking at me like I've just taken away his food. Okay, today we are going to talk about travel and weight loss and controlling what you can. And actually, you can apply this to a lot of things. It doesn't just have to be travel. It doesn't just have to be travel for work. You can think about this if you're going away for the weekend, just staying with family. A lot of what I'm going to be talking about now is going to be really applicable for when you're kind of spending any length of time away from home. And the reason that I'm doing this podcast on this topic is quite a few of my clients travel for work. Now, that could be for one day. It could be for a couple of days at a time. One of them actually has a trip to Australia coming up, so that's going to be a couple of weeks at a time. And, you know, it's been something that we've been talking about quite a bit. And I thought I would share, my tips and tricks on this with you. Because obviously traveling can make sticking to your plans and reaching your goals even more challenging. But what I want to tell you is it's not impossible. Now, I used to travel quite a lot for my corporate job, both in the UK and across Europe. I was often away for, 3 or 4 days at a time. And I used to see this travel as a complete free-for-all on what I could eat or drink. So, the minute I stepped out of the front door with my bag and got into the car, that was it. Calories didn't count. Pretty much since I left the house, not just my home county. And that's changed a lot. Okay, the last 3 years have been very different anyway. I obviously was working in my corporate job through the pandemic. I now have run my own business, so my life looks very different anyway. But actually, in the last couple of years at my corporate job before the pandemic, when I had changed my lifestyle, I started to approach traveling really differently. And so I'm sharing with you not just the things that have worked with my other clients that have traveled, but things that worked for me in corporate life, and now, because I do travel now, just this summer I've been to Brighton. I'm going to Glasgow in a couple of weeks' time. In fact, when this is released, I'm going to Glasgow next weekend. Ooh, how exciting. So how I approach travel has completely changed. So I'm going to share with you some tips, but also some challenges for you, some challenges to the way that you maybe approach things right now and how you think about things. So your mindset around that travel. And the first thing you need to think about is that there's always going to be things you can't control. So meals out with the team, for example, or super long days, not being able to get the food that you would normally eat. But then there's always going to be things you can control on the flip side of that. And so they're the things I'm going to talk you through today. Now, remember, what we're looking for is consistency. We're looking for consistency and that you tried your best and not perfection. Because if you're constantly striving for perfection and then you don't get perfection, you're just going to give up anyway. So we're looking for you consistently trying your best, okay? So the first thing that I want to share with you, I've kind of covered already, but it's about changing your mindset. Okay, if you see travel as a free-for-all, then how do you expect to change this behaviour? You know you're not going to, or you're not likely to be able to eat as you would normally at home or move as you had normally, but focus on what you can do. So we need to step away from this, calories don't count when we're travelling, or it doesn't count because I'm not at home. There's a couple of times that I really consider that calories don't count, and that's my birthday, or maybe Charlie's birthday and Tom's birthday, and then the couple of days of Christmas. But this rule kind of applies to Christmas as well. One of my clients, Helen, said to me earlier this week, Christmas is 2 days. And I just used to always see it as a 2-week free-for-all. So if you're travelling, and whether it's for a day, whether it's for 4 days, whether it's for 4 weeks, you need to step away from that mindset of this is a free-for-all. And you need to step away from thinking, well, I can't control everything, so actually I'm not even going to try and control anything. That's an all or nothing mindset. That's also a perfectionist mindset. So you need to step away from that and focus what you can do. So focus on what is within your control. So if we're just talking about 1 day's travel, or you're going to be at home for one of your meals for the day, can that meal stay the same? Can you have your regular breakfast? Or will you be home by dinner? Or can you take some snacks with you rather than rely on snacks at the train station or snacks at the airport, which, let's face it, whether you're paying for it or your company's paying for it, are expensive anyway. They're normally at least double the price of that in a regular supermarket. So what is within your control? Okay, that's the first thing to consider. Change your mindset and think about what you can control, not worrying about what you can't. If you're going to be sitting for a long time, where do you have the opportunity to get a bit of movement in? So again, this might be down to it being, can you do your regular workout? Sorry, I'm turning my phone on to do not disturb because I forgot to do that. Can you get your regular workout in? So maybe you're not traveling until midday. So can you get your morning workout in? Or can you get some steps in, right? Can you get a quick walk in before you leave for your travel? Now, if you're going off at 4 a.m. in the morning, no, probably not. But consider what time you're going. On the occasions where I would travel late morning, early afternoon, I would always still try to get to the gym, or at least get out for a walk with the dog. So an example I've got is in the summer I did some corporate work in London. Now the location that this corporate work was a bit of a pig to get to. It had about 5 changes on the train. So what I decided to do was to walk a good chunk of the way. And it worked out at about an hour's walking for the whole day, plus the walking I did to get to and from the stations and around on the underground and stuff. And that day I smashed my steps for the day. So although I missed my workout, I couldn't get to the gym, I felt good about what I did because I chose to actually think, on some of those train changes, I would have been on the train for 1 stop, 2 stops, and then changed again. So I felt really good about that decision. Speaking about trains, you could get off a train a stop earlier. Probably a bit easier on tubes in London to do that. Or you could choose to walk around an airport instead of sitting staring at your phone whilst you're drinking a coffee, just to get a few more steps in. So think about, in terms of movement, if you're going to be sat down for a really long time, where are the opportunities for you to get that movement in? Now, one of the biggest problems I used to face when I travelled Europe was that I would eat breakfast as soon as I'd checked into at the airport. Now, sometimes my flights were as early as 6 a.m, 6:30 a.m. So I was sometimes eating breakfast at 5 a.m. And then by the time I got off the plane, I'd be starving again. And then I'd need to eat again. And that's then 2 breakfasts. Then you'd eat lunch and then I'd have dinner or whatever. Now, I figured out this was a bit of a mindset thing for me, because now I get up between 5 and 5:30. I walk the dog, I train at the gym before I've had breakfast. So I'm having breakfast now. The earliest I tend to have breakfast is 9 a.m. But I'm having it between 9 and 10:30 every morning. So I didn't need my prep breakfast at the airport before I got on my plane to Germany or whatever. Maybe if I was a bit peckish, a piece of fruit would have done, and I could have carried that in my bag from home. But again, that was a mindset thing. Oh, at the airport, must have breakfast. Oh, at the train station, must have breakfast. If you find you do need to eat when you get up that early, and I'm not telling you can't, I'm just giving you some tools here to get yourself around these situations. Work out what's the latest time you can eat. Because if you have your breakfast super early, then you're going to want to have your lunch super early, and you're probably going to find you eat an extra meal on that day because of that travel. Now, like I say, if you are one of these people that absolutely must eat as soon as they get up, I'm not telling you to make yourself feel faint and sick and not eat at all. What I'm saying is work out when the latest time is. Maybe work out, is it that I need 2 breakfasts, or will a piece of fruit tide me over until, it's a bit more of a reasonable time. Other things to think about is when you're eating on the go, try to pick the protein, fruit and veg options. So sometimes this might mean 3 separate packets of something. And I always think of M&S here because they always have M&S food stores at train stations. So it might be, if you're a meat eater, some cooked chicken, a little salad pot. Because the regular salads I find from the shops don't have enough protein in, and then maybe a fruit pot. Okay, so always go for the protein, fruit and veg options, and that does normally mean staying away from sandwiches, because they tend, and that's nothing to do with the bread, it's because they tend to not have enough protein in them. Now, let's say you're socialising with the team whilst you're travelling. Remember, it's okay to say no. No to alcohol, no to dessert, no to anything you want. Don't need to eat or drink things you don't want to for bonding purposes. And for those of you that are listening rather than watching, I'm doing with the bunny ears quotation marks things. If you were pregnant, right, no one would expect you to drink alcohol. If you said you didn't smoke, no one would force you to smoke a cigarette. If you said you were gluten-free, vegan, or allergic to nuts, no one would force you to eat, something with gluten in, something with meat in it, or nuts, just because they all are. So just because you're not pregnant, you might be pregnant listening to this, or you're we're not talking about smoking, and maybe you're not gluten-free or whatever, don't let other people peer pressure you into eating and drinking things you don't want to. Why is it socially acceptable to be able to say to someone, oh, come on, don't be boring, just have a drink? You wouldn't say that to a pregnant person. Why is it socially acceptable to say, oh, go on, have dessert, everyone else is? You wouldn't say to someone who didn't smoke, come on, have a cigarette, I am. Would you? So why is it socially acceptable to expect people to eat and drink things they don't want to just to make you feel better? Because that's what we're talking about at the end of the day. People that try to get you to, and this is more about drinking alcohol, but you also find it with things like dessert. People often tell you, oh, go on, have a drink, don't be so boring. Oh, go on, have a dessert, it doesn't matter. Now, they're doing that to make themselves feel better because they've had a drink or 3 and they're having dessert. There's nothing wrong with having a drink if you want to. There's nothing wrong with having a dessert if you want to. But if you don't want to, why is it okay for someone to make you feel guilty for that? So just remember that. The same principle as travelling. When you're out for meals, try to pick the protein and veg options or eat them first on your plate. And then similarly to when you're socialising, pick 2 from a starter, main, dessert and alcohol. If it's a set menu, so like a conference or something, eat until you're 80% full and stop. And that might mean if there's a starter, you eat the protein on the starter and the veg on the starter and you leave everything else. And then you know that there's a main and pudding coming. So again, on your main, you eat the protein and the veg and then you stop. And then maybe you have a taste of the dessert until you are comfortable and then you stop. And by the way, you can still say no to alcohol if you want. Stay hydrated. Traveling can leave you super hydrated, especially if you're worried about needing the loo on the train. Hi, that's me. I hate going to the loo on the train. So make sure that where you can keep a water bottle with you. Don't forget, in most airports now, you can take your refillable bottle, and if they don't have a water tap in the airport, any of the bars and restaurants will fill up your water bottle, so you don't have to buy plastic bottles of water. You can take your regular water bottle, empty it before you go through security and fill it up the other end. If you're staying for quite a few days, find out if the hotel that you're staying at has a gym or a pool, because even 20 minutes on a treadmill for a couple of days that you're there means you will have moved your body before sitting in all of those meetings all day. This is really important as well. If you're going somewhere where you've never been before, and I'm recording this in winter, I'm aware people might be listening to this in the future. Hello, future people. But in the winter, if you're going somewhere you've never been before, do you really want to be walking around early in the morning or late at night when it's dark, trying to get your steps in a place that you're not familiar with? No, I don't recommend you doing that. So find out what facilities your hotel has and see if you can get a bit of movement in before your day starts or at the end. Okay, this one used to catch me out all the time. Biscuits and treats in the meeting room. When I worked in my corporate job, I was a learning and development manager, and we often ran training courses in the hotel next door. And part of the package at the hotel was that at break times, they always would put out homemade cookies and cakes and all sorts of things. And I love a biscuit, so I found that really, really difficult not to have them. Now, one of the things that was easier about that is that they were all on kind of high tables, and it was your whole group and it might have been other groups. And so actually, if I took 2 or 3 cookies or biscuits or cakes or whatever, I would look a bit greedy. It's more when there's those bowls in the middle of the table of things, or plates or boxes of biscuits or chocolates that just go round and round and round the room, and you just end up like eating them. Don't deny yourself completely. If you want one, have one, but enjoy it mindfully and then step away. So don't do I'm just taking one because it's going past me and I'm going to eat it whilst I'm on my way to the loo or whatever. Eat it, enjoy it, and then step away. Remember, travel can be really tiring, even when you're the one that's not doing the driving. Make sure you get enough sleep. And that in itself, right, can be challenging if you're not in your own bed. But, the night before, try and get good sleep. The night after, try and get good sleep. Try and get to bed on time. And even if you find yourself kind of lying awake in your hotel room because you're not at home, you're finding it difficult to sleep, don't be tempted. I used to do this all the time. Don't be tempted to work. Try to rest. So maybe read or listen to a podcast or some meditation or a sleep track or, something like that. If you track your food, can you try to track whilst you're away? So sometimes that's really difficult. I remember being in Poland, and Polish food is delicious, but really difficult at times to know what you're eating. And so attempting it was difficult, but I often did attempt to do that. So you can make a guess. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just give it a go. When you get home, just go back to normal calories, normal planned routines. There's no need to over restrict. And expect that the scales will go up from the travel, from the tiredness, from different or more food, from more salt, maybe some alcohol. Just get back to your normal routines and this will go down. If the scales jump up 4 pounds and you've only been away 1 or 2 nights, that is not 4 pounds of body fat. That is water retention. And then my last tip is be kind to yourself. And this comes in many forms. Firstly, no beating yourself up. This is part of your job. This is, something that, comes with the territory. There is no need to beat yourself up. A couple of days is not going to set you back after all the hard work you've put in, firstly. But the second point, and I think this is probably the more important point and probably the one that you're going to find harder to implement, is remember you have just taken time away from your family, from your home, from your friends, from your normal routines and responsibilities for your job. And my guess is that for most of you, you won't have been paid any extra for that. I know certainly I was not paid any extra for the days and days of travel that I did. And, I'll be really honest, very rarely got any time back for it. So you're doing this outside of time with your family. Be kind to yourself. Set boundaries. If you're not getting home from the airport until 11 p.m. at night, do you need to be in the office at 8 a.m. the next morning? Is there some flexibility your boss can give you about what time you get in? Can you work from home? You've just spent a couple of days away from everyone that you love and your home comforts. On behalf of that company, be kind to yourself and ask if you can take some time back. Because remember, you can always make more money. You can't make any more time. Okay? So that's my download of the things that helped me most when I worked in corporate, the things that have helped my clients who travel, whether it be for work or for pleasure or whatever. I know it's really easy to put yourself in this mindset of, doesn't count, I'm on a plane. But if you do this regularly, I'm not talking about, I do this once a year. If you do this regularly, it will count. And so these are the things that are going to help you to get the results you want. And this is what I'm talking about consistently and trying. If you're doing this every month, every 2 months, and it's 2 or 3 days at a time, this could be the difference between you making really slow progress and speeding your progress up and seeing your progress come quicker, because you're trying your best and you're applying the principles more consistently. So I hope that was helpful. If you would like some support with your fat loss, your fitness, your health, your self-care. Don't forget, I run group coaching programs, and I also offer one-to-one coaching for those of you that aren't quite ready to be working in a group just yet. You want that higher touch. You can find out more about that on my website, themumbossmethod.com, and you want the work with me tab. Just to let you know that my next intake of the Last Diet Club, that is my signature group coaching program, starts on Monday the 6th of November. I am taking enrollments for that right now. If you enroll right now, you get my support from right now. If you're listening to this and it's past the 6th of November, you can go to my website and find out when the next intake is. It's roughly about every 7 or 8 weeks. But in this particular round, in the lead up to Christmas, we are going to be focusing on not just getting you some results before Christmas, but also helping you to approach Christmas in a completely different way to how you have done before. Because I bet that many of you listening have approached Christmas as a free-for-all, just like we've been talking about now. You have gone hell for leather for 2 weeks and gotten yourself up on the 1st of January, hungover or not, no judgment from me, and you've felt like absolute rubbish. You've felt sluggish, you know you've overeaten, you know you've drunk too much, and you then feel like you need to go diving headfirst into that fad crash diet and start the cycle from the 1st of January of the new year. And in the Last Diet Club, for this last intake of the year, we are going to be focusing on how you enjoy Christmas without waking up on the 1st of January and feeling like that. So if you want in on that action and you want to start with me right now, then get in touch. You can click on the links in the show notes. I would love to have you join us. Okay, have an awesome week. I hope this has been helpful, and don't forget, you know where I am. Come and find me, and speak to you soon. Bye.